Hey, it is 12 noon on Friday, which means it's time for this week's episode of State of Real Estate. Changing things up today, spicing it up a little bit, make sure that our mastermind is the most impactful. And look, it's entertaining at the same time. That's my job, to share the information and share it in an engaging way, a way that's going to be received by you so you can take this information and go deploy it out there in your life. And today we've got a topic that should be something that you learn in school, should be something that you learn in college, but it's not taught, and it's money, the purpose of money. There's so much about money that we just take in what people traditionally think, and we accept that as the norm. But what we're talking about today is how it is you need to think about money and what its purpose really is. I guarantee you we're going to blow your mind. Stick with us. We've got a great episode for you today of State of Real Estate.
You are watching
State of Real Estate. Every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time. Grow your real estate business. You're watching State of Real Estate. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of State of Real Estate. I'm John Christmo. The show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. Welcome to our weekly mastermind to help you better understand what it takes to grow your real estate business, to take it to the next level, to launch your real estate career. This show is all about pushing yourself forward, pushing yourself up, pushing your business up. And that could apply whether you're starting your real estate career, whether you're trying to crank out more business in your current real estate career. That's what we're talking about today. We're talking specifically about money, which is what makes this all possible. So if you think back on when it is that you use money and your best uses of money, and look, if you've already got a real estate license, if you already started your real estate career, you would not be there without that money, without that initial investment. You might think of some other things it is that you've spent money on, but look, when we think of money, when we as a human race think of money, we think of, I get money, I could buy a house. I get money, I could buy a car. I get money, I could buy a boat. And what we're doing, so money isn't something, and this is a big kind of mindset shift that, it's taken me a while to kind of really fully try to get everything around my life of shifting from, money isn't something to be kept. It's not something meant to be saved. It's something meant to be used. Whether you're using that today or you're using it tomorrow or you used it yesterday, its purpose is to be used. If you don't plan on using the money is worthless. That's the whole point of having money, is using the money. And when we talk about some of these purchases that really everyone has, whether you own a home or you're renting a home, you're paying some sort of money for shelter. And there's that whole kind of hierarchy of needs. And look, you need a place to live. You need a place to shelter yourself. So yeah, that's unavoidable. You've got to pay for that shelter. And you need transportation. Especially in the Tampa Bay area. A lot of talk going on recently about all the public transportation stuff and trying to make that actually usable and make it so people actually want to use that stuff. But especially in the Tampa Bay area, you pretty much need a vehicle. Especially if you're in real estate. Public transportation, it's usually not going to cut it in real estate. Maybe if you're in like New York City or something like that where everything literally is right on top of each other, then maybe you could be a realtor on the bus. But you usually need some sort of vehicle. Now, if we think of that, if you're not in real estate and maybe let's say you live right next door to work, you might want a vehicle, but you don't need a vehicle. And the reason why we change from a want to a need is because the purpose of money, your number one priority with money, to ensure financial fortune, to ensure that you're financially sound, to ensure that you're not having to worry about running out of money, the number one priority of your money, the number one use, the number one purpose of money is as a tool. And that's really all money is. Money is just a tool. And you need to use this tool to attract more money. That's the number one, the best use of money. Because when you've got your money bringing in other money, And we're going to talk about the different ways you get your money to bring in other money. But now when you have these things it is that you want, so the boat, for example, I mean, unless you're a fisherman or you're like some tourism type of thing, you don't need a boat. It's probably not economical for you to travel by boat, even with as much water as that we have. Boats don't go very fast. They're fun. Don't get me wrong, they're fun. It's okay to want a boat, but you're not going to need a boat. So you've got to prioritize taking the money from being a tool to generate more money versus that money not being used as a tool, that money being thrown away with no chance of ever getting any sort of return on that. Look, and even if you're buying, let's go to the boat, because again, the boat is something that's not a necessity. And really, again, unless you're a fisherman or you're doing some sort of tourism thing or anything like that, and when I say you're a fisherman, not that you like to go fish on the weekends when you're not working, but like you're earning your living off of fishing, that's the only time that boat is in need there. So with that boat, it's okay to have something like that, but you've got to have the flow established first and foremost. You've got to have that flow of money. You've got to have the income being generated. And the whole saying, it takes money to make money, it to a certain extent, yes. Now, we're going to kind of demystify that a little bit because that's a little bit of a myth. But the concept, what it is that you want to take, a lot of people will take these adages that people have, like it takes money to make money, and they'll use that as an excuse as to why it is they can't make money. We're going to talk about how you could start making money without money or very little money, how you could kind of get that initial push going on. But now, as if you want to start making money, creating money, not earning money, that's where you use that money. The money is the tool that you're using to attract further money in. And so let's talk about, bring out the whiteboard here, let's talk about some of the ways it is that you could earn money. So this isn't something new, original for me or anything like that for this one I'm about to show you. This is something from Robert Kiyosaki. He's got a book called The Cash Flow Quadrant. And this is, all the Robert Kiyosaki books are phenomenal. Definitely read those, take those in. But what this will show you is the four quadrants. The four quadrants of earning money. We've got the E, the S, the B, and I. And I might be flipping this around here, but I'll explain this to you as if this were the correct order of these. So we've got E, S, B, and I. And what these stand for is employee. And let's start with that right there. Takes money to make money? Nope, it does not. If you've got a job, you didn't pay to get that job. Now, in real estate, you've got to pay to get your real estate license, and you've got expenses, but we're going to talk about real estate. Real estate, you're not an employee. Real estate, you're moving down into this quadrant and this quadrant over here. We're going to talk about what it is that these other quadrants are. But let's start off right there. That's how you initially start getting your bills paid. But look, when you're buying, you need a place to shelter yourself. So we talked about that. You need a place to house yourself, to protect yourself from the elements. You don't need a mansion. You don't need a property it is that you can't afford. That's where you're moving away from the necessity. At some point, when you've got enough money being created and coming into you, you can move away from those necessities. You could start buying the mansions, the yachts, the private jets, and all these other things that you don't need. But you've got to start off, especially if you're just in this quadrant here, the employee quadrant. So the employee quadrant is the safest quadrant because with this, you're really the least amount of input on your part and a pretty guaranteed, close to guaranteed. It's not guaranteed because who knows, your company might go under, who knows, the market might crash and that industry might be destroyed, whatever the case may be. But that employee, it seems to be the most secure quadrant. And with this, it's basically where, if we're going to map this out, the way the money flows is, somewhat like this. Now, as you get like 10, 20, 30 years into this profession, you'll start earning more money. And you might say, no, mine looks more like this one here. I'm getting higher raises, it's going up. Yeah, that's true. But for the long term, this is not going to have the same potential as what we talk about in these other quadrants. So we'll go through some of these other quadrants as well and kind of overlay that on the same chart here to kind of describe this money. But look, I'm not saying it's bad to have a job. I'm not saying it's bad to be an employee. It's a necessity to start out as an employee. And it's up to you as to whether or not you want to choose to move into one of these other quadrants. And the employee quadrant makes it possible for you to move into these other quadrants. But this is where, you don't need money to make money. You get a job, you become employed, you do what you're supposed to do. You become great at that, because if you're not great at this, you're not going to be great at this. You're not going to be great at this. You're not going to be great at anything, because the way you do one thing is the way that you do everything. So the way that you do one thing is the way that you do everything. So get out there, and you might not like your job you have. You might not enjoy what it is that you're doing. All the more reason for you to kind of look to these other quadrants. But I'm not even saying that you need, even if you were the CEO of your own business, when you're working in that business, you're an employee. And that's where we start to pull in this self-employed quadrant. And so the self-employed quadrant, the S, this is where you're basically like a one-man show. This is where most realtors fall into. Most real estate professionals, they fall into this S quadrant. And the S quadrant is, depending on who you ask, but most people like the S as opposed to the E. Like I said, you're going to start out as an E. You start out as an employee, and I'm not talking about in real estate because that's usually not the case. But most of the people that we see come and get their real estate license with us, we have a few people that are starting this straight out of high school, but even then they probably had some sort of high school part-time job, because the people coming to us straight out of high school, those people are hustlers. Those people are the ones that are really trying to crush it. So they probably already had some way of earning income in the past, even though they're just straight out of high school. But regardless of the case, especially since you can't get a real estate license until you're 18, most people are transitioning from some previous job it is that they had, or maybe they even had a business it is that they're doing before. A lot of times when they already have a business, they're just looking to add another business, add another flow of income, which we'll talk about that as we get deeper into this here. But so in the S quadrant, this is where you're basically self-employed. And the self-employed, what's appealing to this to a lot of people is, this is where you're in the quadrant now of what you put in is what you get out. Whereas as an employee, your efforts, what it is that you're doing, how it is that you've helped impact the company, might go overlooked sometimes. And that's just the nature of the beast. And that's what overall makes this where, and you're trading in that opportunity for security. So, really out of all these here, the employee is probably the most secure, depending on the situation, but that employee situation is the most secure. But the long-term payoff that you're getting on that, it's not phenomenal. Even if you're rising to be the CEO of this company, and it's some Fortune 500 company, we're talking a salary of a couple $1 million. And that's 20, 30, 40 years of work you're probably looking at to move up through those echelons. And that's that likelihood, that percentage, the statistic that's going to happen. It's possible, but There's easier ways to make millions of dollars. And that's when we start to look at these other quadrants that we have here. So moving into the self-employed, this is usually the logical next step that people get into. They go from being an employee, or they're still an employee, but they're looking for additional ways, additional flows of income to bring in. And some people might do that with multi-level companies. There's all kinds of those out there. Some people might do that by selling things on Amazon. A lot of people look to real estate and say, hey, I could get my real estate license, because you could probably make a heck of a lot more money in real estate than you could reselling things on Amazon. And with this, if you've watched any of our State of Real Estate episodes before, you've seen how we talk about building your brand and building something long term and building building something that's worth something. You're selling things on Amazon. You might get good at that. You might have a little bit of inventory or something like that. But that potential, you're not building an Amazon. You're just building a funnel that goes into Amazon, which again, that's okay. That's another flow of income. But now what occurs here? As the self-employed, this is where the key thing here is where it's just you. It's you on your own. And if we now compare this, let's do this one in blue here. So if we take the self-employed and we put this up against the employee, this is usually more so where this looks like. where you're getting a little bit of a faster rise in the beginning, because we're probably more something like this here. What you're getting in the beginning. But now what happens here if you stay in this S quadrant is you'll get this fast rise. You'll start making more money. You're probably going to end up making more money than you would over the lifetime of your career if you're doing it right, if you're putting in the right amount of effort. But you start to top off. You start to kind of get capped out even with this. And the reason why is, now, a lot of entrepreneurs don't stay in this space because what you've got to do now if you want to progress further is move into the B quadrant, which we're going to talk about what that is then. You're not necessarily stuck here, but if you're remaining a one-man organization or one-woman organization where it's just you, there's only so much time it is that you have. And especially in this current day and age with the technology that's available to connect the planet, where you might not be able to afford to pay somebody $10 an hour to help you with administrative tasks or things like that, but maybe you've got something that can be done by somebody on the other side of the planet, and maybe $5 an hour to them, half the price of what you'd pay somebody actually here in person. Maybe that makes it where you could, they're maybe not, because again, they're still remote, but the technology, it's really crazy what they could do. But maybe you have them doing some sort of administrative work, or maybe you have them doing cold calls for you, or maybe you have something that you're setting up and you're structuring this out. But what you're doing is you're building yourself out a team. It's no longer just reliant on you. And the more it is that you make it where your business does not rely on you solely, that's where you move into the B quadrant. And we refer to this one as business. And you might say, yeah, John, I have my own business as a realtor, and you're correct. But when we categorize this as a business, and this is, this cash flow quadrant was devised by Robert Kiyosaki, and that's the classification for business is now where you could remove yourself, from the organization, and that organization is still generating income. If you can't remove yourself from the organization and it still generates income as if you were there, if it doesn't make a difference of whether you're there or whether you're not, you're still in the S quadrant. You're maybe transitioning to the B quadrant, but when you get to the point where you leave, you go on a sabbatical for a year, that's where you become a B, and that's what's possible with all this. And then finally, we've got our last way of earning income here, which you could maybe you could really get into this third quadrant here, the I quadrant, at any point. But this I quadrant, this stands for investor. This, in order to do this, is where you need money to make money. Couldn't be more true. You can't buy stocks without money. You can't buy real estate without money. And no money down and all this other stuff out there. You need some sort of money. You got to train yourself. You've got to pay for the training on this to learn how to invest like that. Any one of these quadrants that's not the employee quadrant, you're going to have some investment cost, because you're investing now in yourself at the very least, maybe investing in others as well. And that's what I want to talk about, the investment in yourself and how that's going to have the best payoff out of all this here. If we're talking about the businesses, they come in right about here, and this is where you start kind of scaling up with something like that. That's what happens with the business. But with the business, you've already got to have some sort of self-employed person that's starting this off. And maybe it becomes a business earlier. Maybe it's here it becomes a business. Maybe it's here it becomes a business. Maybe it's here it becomes a business. That depends on who is starting this. But eventually, you could turn your self-employed organization into a business. And as you progress through these deeper levels of this quadrant here, once you break away from that employee quadrant, and maybe you're not even completely breaking away from it, because we could argue that as a self-employed individual, you're still you're just employed by yourself. So whether it's somebody else employing you or you're self-employing you, you're still employed in a business. Now, if you're truly in this side of the quadrant right here, the business and the investor, these are the ones where you're really not an employee. Because with the business, again, you remove yourself, the business isn't affected whatsoever. That would make it where you're no longer an employee. Same thing with an investor. But look, both of these are still going to take work. You walk away from any business, even if you've got the really great people in there, you walk away from that business, you walk away from your baby that you started, what's going to happen to it? Is it going to continue to be prosperous? Are people going to get lazy? Are people going to get complacent? Maybe you've built the greatest company in the world for this particular industry. Good Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos started Amazon. Is he checked out? Is he retired? Saying, oh, yeah, I don't want to do anything anymore? Look what happened to Microsoft when Bill Gates, stepped out of that role. When that really truly became a business and he's like, all right, yeah, let me go help the rest of the world. Look at what happened to Microsoft's market share. So even in this case here, you're still an employee. And in the investment space, you could maybe pay some sort of financial advisor, pay somebody to manage your investments for you. So you're taking a hit on the investments with that, but then you've got to know what direction to push your financial advisor into. Because again, just like the business might happen, no one's going to care more about your money than you. Your financial advisor won't care more about your money than you. They'll care about it a lot because if they lose it, they're probably going to lose you as a client, but no one cares more about anything it is that you're doing, whether it's an investment, a business, a self-employed venture, or an employee. No one cares about you more than you care about you. So what we've been going through here, because you remember, John, I thought we were coming here to talk about money, and we are talking about money. We just went through the different ways to earn money, but I want to go back to money being a tool, how we take this money and how we make these different ventures possible. So maybe you're in this employee space now, and you're looking to push yourself out into these further spaces so you could earn more income. Look, you could ask for a raise in your employment capacity, but asking for your raise, that might give you a little bit of a bump, but you're not all of a sudden rich because you got a little bit of a raise. These other quadrants, these have the power to build you a fortune, to build you an empire. The employee quadrant provides stability, provides security, provides you a good foundation. And again, like we just talked about, you're an employee in any one of these quadrants here. But you need to make sure that you have an exit strategy. And not even an exit strategy. You maybe still keep a foot in that employee space, but maybe you're taking money, putting it in a 401k. That's going in an investment. But when you're investing a small amount of money with a small return, again, that's not going to build you a fortune. Over time, compound interest and all that stuff, it'll build a good deal of money. But with inflation, it's not anything that is going to really provide the same security of what you have here. So I want to talk more about money, more about using it as a tool, taking the money it is that you've earned in this employee space, employee earn. This is where, and same thing with self-employed. If you're out there performing a service, doing something that requires input on your part, you're earning money. This side over here, as well as hybrid kind of with this one here, you're more about making money than you are earning money. So we're going to talk about that, more about money, but first we're going to take a quick commercial break. Stick with us. I'm John Chrismo. You're watching State of Real Estate.
Have you seen what's going on in Tampa?
If you're looking to get in on the real estate action that's going on in Tampa right now, we're who you need to talk to. We can help you get your real estate license, start your real estate career. We're here to assist you for the life of your real estate career. Give us a call. Phone number is 813-928-0106, or check us out online at tampaschool.com.
Do you want to incorporate studying for your real estate exams into your busy schedule? Now you can review the key topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams with our MP3 audio review. Simply pop in your headphones or connect to your car to reinforce crucial information while you exercise or drive. Listen to the first unit for free at mp3audioreview.com. That's mp3audioreview.com.
Hey, if you're enjoying the show today, which I'm sure you are, be sure to hit like, subscribe, post your comments, share with your friends and family. Thank you guys so much for watching.
You are watching
State of Real Estate. Every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time. Grow your real estate business. You're watching State of Real Estate. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of State of Real Estate. I'm John Christman. The show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. Every Friday, 12 noon Eastern Time, we come to you to mastermind, to take your business, take your life overall. Because you take your life to the next level, your business is going to go to the next level. It's going to follow right along with it. You take your business to the next level, you're automatically pushing your life up there. They're hand in hand. Any one of these quadrants it is that you're in that we're talking about. Today, we're talking about money, what its true purpose is, what its number one priority, the way money wants to be used that will earn you more money. But before we talk more about that, I've got a question coming in from David Watson. It's a good question. He's got to send it in over on YouTube. So David asked, with all the students getting a real estate license in Tampa Bay, is it harder to make it in real estate today? Man, that it's almost poetic with the way that's worded. So great question, David. And this is something that we study and we watch very closely. And I mean, especially when we see as many students as it is that come through Tampa School of Real Estate, and the opportunity that's out there, you know, it seems enticing, but then you start to wonder, well, if it's so easy to get rich, why isn't everyone doing it? Why isn't everyone got out there getting a real estate license, making some sort of fortune, or whatever that case may be? And what happens? So the reason why there's so many people looking to get their real estate license is because of what's going on in the real estate market. People are seeing the opportunities, and it's ridiculous, and it almost makes you worry a little bit. We're like, oh my God, are they going too fast? But there's if you pay attention to the economy in Tampa, the economy in Tampa today is nothing like the economy in Tampa 10 years ago, and for the entire surrounding Tampa Bay area as well. Tampa has completely transformed itself. Tampa hit rock bottom. Tampa, in the market crash we had in 2008, was one of the top 3 worst hit real estate markets in the country. Just a couple months ago, Tampa was ranked the number 1 healthiest housing market. Not the fastest growing, because there are a couple markets out there that are growing faster than Tampa, but it's the number 1 healthiest, which means Tampa, the people that are in Tampa, the businesses that are in Tampa, the politicians that are in Tampa, we all witnessed, wow, look what just happened. And so many changes were made, and Tampa's gone a completely different direction now, where it's nothing like it used to be. And that's why they rank it the number 1 healthiest market, because we're prepared for any changes in the real estate industry, in the overall economy, any changes, any shifts that could occur. That's what number 1 healthiest housing market means. The housing market is the most prepared for any changes in the economic climate. And now, so we see what's growing now. We see all these opportunities. Every day it seems like there's some new story. We just posted one the other day about this development that's planning to go in towards West Shore. It's where 275 and Dal Mabry intersect. And I've driven by this piece of land so many times, and I'm like, man, what are they going to ever do with this? And I got my answer the other day. They've got this $500 million, $500 million development planned out there with apartments, with office space, with hotel, with retail, this master plan community of semi-high rise. I think it's like 5-6 stories, something like that is what they're planning to do with it, maybe a couple higher, not a super high rise, but something like that. And that's just one of many stories of what's going on in the Tampa Bay area. And what's driving this isn't just speculation, which that was a big part of what made Tampa an unhealthy housing market so many years ago when we had that crash. That's that we were a very unhealthy market now. The reason why we're such a healthy market right now is because there's so much growth occurring. Tampa's really kind of taking this, and they just did this tech conference the other day. I think it was called like Synapse or something like that, and they were talking about how it's done great, it's moved along, but now what is it that we're doing to make it better? And I mean, even a couple people were saying, yeah, we need to step on this, we need to get a move on, we need to continue ensuring this growth. So we're very aware as a general collective population in the Tampa Bay area, especially the business leaders, that, hey, we got to keep driving business if we want the economy to continue to thrive in Tampa, to continue to want people to come to Tampa to seek jobs, to continue to have jobs that are offered in the Tampa Bay area. So that's a big factor driving a lot of this growth right now. And with this growth, now when we look at the side of this of now people with a real estate license trying to get licensed, trying to go get a stronghold, get a foothold, start making some money with a real estate license, and you see all these other people going to get a real estate license. The reason why that has increased, because let me tell you a little bit about the story about Tampa School of Real Estate. We started in 2007. 2007 was not a time to start any sort of business in the real estate industry, unless you're Tampa School of Real Estate, apparently, because we've grown quite a bit since that time. And I remember back in our first class we had at Tampa School of Real Estate, we had, I think, 3 students, maybe 2 students. 2 or 3 students, which our classes are usually anywhere from 25 to 55 students. Usually 3 students. That doesn't happen today. But the reason why it was not only because we were new, but because no one wanted to go get a real estate license in 2007. Now, when we see, fast forward 11 years later, we see the real estate market in the Tampa Bay area is literally booming right now, and it's healthy growth that's occurring. It seems like you're almost dumb for not wanting to take advantage of this in some way or the other. Whether that's maybe investing, purchasing property yourself, but again, that takes money. Gotta have money to make money. That's this investor quadrant here. But now, how else can you get involved in real estate without having money to invest? That's where you move up in here. Still going to need money. There's still some cost to get licensed. I mean, it's a little bit under $500 overall to get your real estate license, about $300 for the course, maybe $100. I think it's like $83 currently for your application. You got to do some fingerprints. You got to schedule a state exam. But overall, you're looking at spending under $500. You go try to invest $500, you might end up at the end of the year, if you're lucky, if you've had a phenomenal return, $550. That's a 10% return, which that's your greatest potential you probably have investing in stocks or even buying real estate. Even any sort of investment, a 10% return is almost unheard of sometimes. It happens a lot in real estate, but a 10% return is shooting for the fences, especially when you've got everyone else flooding in this. So to go back to David Watson's question of so many people getting a real estate license now, what is this? Should I even try because there's so much competition? In the investing space, this is where it's majorly impacted. If you're investing, if you're trying to buy real estate, you're being outbid by other people also trying to buy real estate, and the more competition you have, the lower your return gets. And investment, once you kind of know the basics of this, you're not really doing much that's going to be game changing. You're not doing anything really that's different. You might have a few little tricks up your sleeve that maybe help bump up your return of investment just a little bit. And look, I'm not saying investing is bad. Investing is phenomenal if you've got the appropriate amount of money to have your investments actually make an impact. I mean, if you've got less than $100,000 that you're trying to invest, even on $100,000, a 10% return is only returning you 10 grand. So if you get a 10 grand return over a year, that means you made $10,000 that year, which on top of one of these other quadrants, that's a nice to have that extra 10 grand, even extra $1,000. I mean, any extra money coming in is great, but if you're relying on this investment quadrant here, $10,000 isn't enough. If you want to be able to quit your job and just vacation around the world, $100,000 with a 10% return on investment, that's only getting you $10,000. That's going to have to be a really cheap trip around the world, probably doing a lot of walking with that, wearing the same clothes, eating at McDonald's and whatnot. I like these little nomad people you see on Facebook that they get some cool experiences. But look, if I were to travel the world, I'm sure a lot of you guys are the same way. I wouldn't want to do it, trying to find a deal at a McDonald's in Thailand or something like that. But I'm sure it's a cool experience. So let's shift back over to the self-employed side, because this is probably where a lot of you guys tuning in maybe have the opportunity to be in, or you're currently in, or you're thinking about joining into that self-employed quadrant. So with the self-employed quadrant, you're going to need to have an investment. But moving away from the employee quadrant is really, and even with the employee quadrant, people are investing more money to be in this employee quadrant than what you could typically invest in these other ones and see a lot greater return on investment. And I'm talking about college. I'm talking about sending yourself to school for 4 years to learn a bunch of stuff that's not going to teach you any tangible, real, actual skills or about anything in particular. Now look, if you're going to be a doctor, that's where going to school for 7 years, 8 years, however long that takes, that specific skill. But look, as more people become doctors, that pay starts to drop. You're no longer, unless you're researching and finding some sort of cure for cancer, you're doing something new, you're doing something different. That's where that security that you're thinking you're getting there, That's questionable. But you're still in that employee quadrant. You're trading your work for money. Work for money, work for money, work for money, work for money, and it just keeps going back and forth. Now, getting into the self-employed quadrant, you're still working, but you're going to see a bigger return off of the money. You're maybe putting in the same amount of effort, or ideally you're putting in maybe a little bit more effort here, and that's going to return you overall more money versus being in the employee quadrant. And so going back, tying this in, and I'm glad David asked this question because it really kind of throws some real world thought into what it is that we're talking about here. So say you're getting in the real estate industry. Say you want to get your real estate license. You go take the class with us, go pass your exam, you've got your real estate license, you find a good broker to join with, and now what? So we're a very collective group of people as realtors, as real estate professionals. We're a very collective group, and that's where I see so much of this, which is why the market upswings are really great for the real estate industry. There's a lot of groupthink that goes on, and there's people that are the exception to the norm, and you could try to be the exception to the norm. You can be the exception to the norm, but you've got to be cognizant of what your mind's initially going to do. So as people, we want to be around other people. We want to group ourselves with other people and be around, cool people. And there's a lot of brokerage firms out there that will say, I'm not going to mention specific ones that I've heard a lot of times saying this thing, but if you want to be a better golfer, you've got to get around better golfers. And that's absolutely true. If you're surrounded by a bunch of people that are making $20,000, $30,000 a year, what do you think you're going to make? Because these people that are going to be making $20,000, $30,000 a year, even with a real estate license, there's no guarantees that you're going to be a millionaire, but it absolutely is possible in the real estate space. But if you surround yourself with these people that are not closing deals, the reason why they're not closing deals is because they're not going on appointments, they're not going on not getting contract signs, they're not calling people, they're not trying to establish a pipeline of business. So that is a lot more indicative of your success in this quadrant than how many people are getting into the industry. Because a lot of people are going to fall victim to that group think. It's hard to seek out and find a good culture at a brokerage of people that are on it 24/7, calling people, getting appointments, getting contracts signed, and celebrating it. A really good movie that kind of portrays this kind of culture of go out there and go get it. And it kind of really had a ripple effect, or a lot of business. And so many people that are in business and sales thought it was so cool. Was Wolf of Wall Street. And Wolf of Wall Street, you see Jordan Belfort's company that he runs there, and the sales meeting it is that they have, and how hyped up and crazy and excited it is that these people are. And you might be a little bit of a reserved person and say, oh, I would never want to work at a brokerage like that. But look, when you're in a situation, when you're in an environment where the people around you are out there closing deals, how bad are you going to feel when your coworker, when the other realtors in your office, they're closing a deal every other day and you haven't closed a deal at all this month? How is that going to make you feel? You'll feel like you're the outcast. You'll feel like you're the reject, and you're going to do everything it is that you can to try to emulate them so you can start closing deals regularly. So going back to David's question, it's really not about how many people are out there on the field. It's about what you're doing. Are you actually putting in the work, or are you just kind of hanging out with people, saying, oh yeah, this is cool, playing realtor? Look, you don't want to just play realtor. You want to be a realtor. You want to be a realtor that makes money. You want to have income that's coming to you constantly. And the only way to do that is infusing the work it is that you have. And tying the money into this. So when you're first getting started in real estate, you probably don't have a whole lot of money to invest in yourself. Any one of these quadrants, just like any one of these quadrants, you might be an employee. Any one of these quadrants, I don't know why I keep saying contracts. Any one of these quadrants, you're also likely to be an investor. As the investor quadrant, this is where you're investing in external things. You're investing in stocks, you're investing in real estate, bonds, all these external things that you really don't have a lot of control or any control over. That's where you are in the investor category. In the business category, you're investing in your business. You're reinvesting in your business. And self-employed, the self-employed is just the small business. That's what this is. It's a small business. And in the same situation here, you won't have as much money to invest as if you were here, but you're still using that money to invest. And as an employee, you better invest in making yourself the best employee it is that you can, because otherwise you might get replaced, you might get fired, your company might go under. So even as an employee, you're an investor, but you're an investor in yourself. As a self-employed individual, you're an investor in yourself. As a business, you're an investor in your business, and as an investor, you're investing in outside things that you don't control. But you're always an investor. And any small amount of money it is that you have. So going back to money as a tool. Money is not something meant to be hoarded. It's not something meant to sit in some sort of safe and say, "Oh, look at all this money I've gotten here. Let me lock that back up until I die, and it's still just sitting in here, never used it. Never was any point of having that money in there other than it looks cool." That's not the purpose of money. The purpose of money is to be used to attract more money. That's the purpose of money. And you could also use it for things that are extravagancies, extra things, the boats, the fancier cars, the bigger houses. Absolutely, but if you want to be able to afford those things in the first place, you have to first and foremost use money for its sole purpose as the tool that it is to earn more money. So getting a real estate license, like I said, I mean, you're spending at least a couple $100s to get your real estate license. And then once you have your real estate license, you might want to invest in some additional trainings. The brokerage that you have, you might want to join a certain broker, but that certain broker, they maybe have great training, but maybe there's a cost. Maybe there's some sort of fee to go to this training. Even if the training's included, maybe you have to go to some remote location and pay for a hotel. And the mindset shift that you need to make is not that, "Oh, look at this money I have to spend. Oh, they're taking my money from me." No, you're investing your money. They're not taking the money. You're investing your money. And there's going to be better investments than others. And we're jaded about this as people because and you don't see this as much. I'd probably take that back. You do see this a lot now, but it's easier to spot this now, easier to spot the scams of people it is that want to take your money. But I mean, going back before the age of the internet, before there was Google reviews, before there was so much transparency in the way businesses operate, it was easy to spend money and get bad customer service. That still happens every single day today all over the world, that people will spend money and not get a good return on that money. But you need to do your due diligence. You need to find out so maybe you've decided you want to get your real estate license. What real estate school is it that I should go get my real estate license with? Which one is going to give me the best return on my investment? And the way return on investment is calculated, it's not dollar amount minus dollar amount. It's dollar amount yields this percentage of dollar amount. So you might spend $10,000 and get a better return than if you were to spend $100. Just like if you buy a product. Let's say that you're buying let's say you're buying groceries. And for your health, you're probably going to get a better return on your investment from buying organic groceries, from buying foods that are good for you, that are more expensive, and not buying like cereal and chips and these cheap foods that don't do anything for your health. That's not going to be a good return on your investment. They're cheaper, but it doesn't give you a good return on your investment. So sometimes you've got to spend more money, and it depends. I mean, so when you've got your real estate license, you're now advertising. Now, there's a lot of different ways to advertise. If you go buy, let's say, open house signs. Let's say you're holding an open house and you're buying some open house signs. Look, if you just buy some like cheap little open house signs that are like this big, and you just buy one of them. Let's say you buy one open house sign. That one open house sign might cost you $10. You go stick out that one open house sign, and then you wonder why no one shows up at your open house. Let's say instead of buying one of that same open house sign, you buy 10 open house signs. 10 open house signs. So at $10 a piece, it's $100, and that's assuming we don't get any bulk discounts or anything like that. So we're paying $100 now. We've paid 10 times as much as if we could just buy one sign. A lot of people get hung up on that and say, why would I buy 10 signs when I could just buy one that's going to cost me an extra $90? Oh no, they're taking my money. And you start freaking out about that. But if we look at what could happen now, if we continue along with this story and this journey, you buy 10 open house signs, and now all of a sudden you've got people showing up in your open house and coming to your open house. Let's say you close a deal off that open house and you make $10,000 off of that one deal. You make $10,000 off of that one deal versus $0 off of one open house sign. Which one would you choose? Would you just spend $10 when there's no return on investment, when you're just basically throwing away the $10? Or would you spend $100? Would you buy those extra signs to ensure that you're going to get people showing up at your open house so you can try to convert them into a client? So spending that $100, initially you're thinking, oh my God, that's 10 times as much. Oh, I don't have the money. I don't know if maybe I can't go on this fancy trip or go out to this fancy dinner because of this extra $90 it is that I'm spending. That comes after. You invest that initial money, the $100, and now you get $10,000? That's a 100-time return on your investment. 100-time return on your investment. What would you rather have, the 0 return on investment or the 100-time return on investment? The more it is, and this is a shift because your mind will probably not think, unless you've been properly educated on money and the way it's supposed to be used, your mind is not initially going to think like this. So this is something that you have to constantly reinforce and train yourself to think about, okay, I'm making the investment, I'm spending a little bit more money, and there's a lot of other factors that go through with this. You've got to see this through, you've got to make sure that you're trying to get this deal closed and get this lead closed. But when that does happen, when you get that lead closed, those $100 of signs that you bought, that makes that possible. And that makes that 100-time return on investment. And now before we were talking about a 10% return on investment. 10% return on investment on $100 is $10. We're not talking about a $10 return, we're talking about a $10,000 return. 100 times. 1,000%, no, is it 10,000%? No, 1,000% return on your investment. That's what's possible in the S quadrant. The B quadrant, the returns might not be that high. You might get 5, 10 times return on investment. The investment quadrant, that's where you're going the opposite direction. You're getting maybe 10% back on your money. That self-employed quadrant makes that possible. But you've got to think about, you've got to invest the money to begin with. You've got to use money for its purpose as a tool to get more money, to attract more money. We're going to talk more about that, talk about some other ways, some other scenarios, so you can start priming your mind to think about money as a tool to make more money. But first, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Stick with us. I'm John Christmo. You're watching State of Real Estate.
Have you seen what's going on in Tampa?
You're looking to get in on the real estate action that's going on in Tampa right now, we're who you need to talk to. We can help you get your real estate license, start your real estate career. We're here to assist you for the life of your real estate career. Give us a call. Phone number is 813-928-0106, or check us out online at tampaschool.com.
Do you want to incorporate studying for your real estate exams into your busy schedule? Now you can review the key topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams with our MP3 audio review. Simply pop in your headphones or connect to your car to reinforce crucial information while you exercise or drive. Listen to the first unit for free at mp3audioreview.com. That's mp3audioreview.com.
Hey, if you're enjoying the show today, which I'm sure you are, be sure to hit like, subscribe, post your comments, share with your friends and family. Thank you guys so much for watching.
You are watching
State of Real Estate. Every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time. Grow your real estate business. You're watching State of Real Estate. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of State of Real Estate. I'm John Christman. The show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. And what we're talking about today is money. The proper use of money. The appropriate use of money. Now, when we think of money, and it's just the way we're wired, the way our society is wired, we think of money and we think of ways we could spend that money rather than ways it is that we can invest that money. And even if you're an investor, even myself included, look, I'm guilty of this myself. I think of money as like, oh man, I could get some fun stuff with that money. But then I'm like, oh no, I probably shouldn't do that though. Let me go make some more money than tomorrow, next month, next year. Then I'll get those fun things. And when you pay yourself later, so that term, pay yourself later, a lot of this Robert Kiyosaki stuff, that the cash flow quadrant we're talking about here, this whole concept of investing. Really, if you're new to entrepreneurship, I highly recommend that you check out all of the Robert Kiyosaki books. The Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the Cash Flow Quadrant especially. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is great, but it focuses kind of on the investment side of this here. but you've got to work through these different quadrants to get to the investor quadrant. So definitely check that out. Robert Kiyosaki books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant, they're all, I 100% recommend them. So back to that phrase, you've got to pay yourself later. And you get that $10,000 check now. So let's go back, we'll rerun through that scenario. You buy one sign for $10, one open house sign, you hold your open house, no one shows up because you only had one sign. You only invested in one sign to try to get somebody to go to that open house. You don't get anybody showing up, you're not going to make any money. You're basically wasting your time at that open house. So now, how do we ensure that we're not wasting time at that open house? We make sure we're getting people to come in. We're investing in more signs. Maybe we buy 10 of those $10 signs, and now we've got $100 invested in signs, but now we actually have people showing up and coming into the open house. And if we could close one of those and get a deal of $10,000, get a commission check of 10 grand, which I'm not even saying anything that's crazy to do. I mean, a $300,000 house or so around there, depending on the split you have with your broker, is going to get you close, if not at $10,000. Depending on what the commission rate is and all those particulars there. But hey, maybe $8,000, but it doesn't sound as fun as $10,000 because now we're moving up into 5 digits instead of just 4. Maybe it's $15,000, maybe it's $20,000, maybe it's $30,000. You start doing the math on this and start to understand what's potential and what's possible. You've got to know what those expected outcomes are to be willing to put that input in. To be able to put that in. I mean, going back again to David Watson's question. So David Watson, it sounds like he's thinking about getting a real estate license, but he's wondering, okay, all these people coming in, all these people getting their real estate license, is there going to be anything left for me? And what that is, it's a mindset of scarcity. There's so much business out there. That's why there's so many people interested in getting into the business. And there's so many agents out there that are making a killing, that have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars of income coming in across the year. But now these teams and these realtors that are having these higher levels of income, they're not just taking all that money and giving it to themselves. They would have never gotten to that point if they just took that money. Because when we think about getting a $10,000 commission check, you're probably thinking, oh, I could pay down my credit cards with that. Oh, I could go on that trip I wanted to go on with that. Oh, I could do this with that. No, you're not going to do any of those things if you want to continue to be successful in real estate, if you want to grow your business higher, if you want to earn more than just $10,000 across a month or two that it takes you to close that deal. You want to start using that money now to fill up your pipeline, using that money to let's say, so you could generate leads by cold calling or by door knocking. And look, if you don't like cold calling and door knocking, hire somebody to cold call and door knock. Then you say, John, no, I don't want to share my money. I want all the money. I want that whole $10,000. I don't want to split that with another agent that's more extroverted. That's something you could do. Find it. If you're an introverted, if you're a shy person, that's fine. Find somebody who's not. Find somebody who's the opposite of you. Find somebody who's extroverted, who's willing to talk to anybody, who loves making phone calls, who loves knocking on doors. Find one of them, split the money with them. Say, hey, look, 50-50, I'll handle the back end of this. You help get the business, you get the clients in the door, I'll get the clients out the door. You get them in, I'll get them sold and get them out. We split the profits 50-50. And you might say, oh, I don't want to give up half my money because now I'm only making $5,000 and I could make $10,000 if I just suck it up and do it myself. You've got to realize what your strengths are and then use that money as a tool to cover your weaknesses. If your weakness is, again, not being extroverted, not wanting to talk to people, not wanting to cold call, not wanting to door knock, find somebody that wants to do that. Find somebody that's like, oh, yeah, I'll do that. That's fun. I'd rather do that than just show people houses. That's boring. Find somebody like that, split the money with them. Because now, rather than just closing one deal, you might close 2, 3, 4, 5 deals. Even if you're just closing 2 deals now, that covers that other person. If you're able to double your business, go from doing 1 deal to doing 2 deals, one $10,000 deal to 2 $10,000 deals, $20,000, now all of a sudden you're making the same amount of money with that 50-50 split. And what's possible, and that's why I say 2, 3, 4, 5 deals, if you guys have your roles and you guys have your, or girls, or you have your things it is that you do, you could be very great at knocking on the doors while the other person is very great at closing the deals, of getting them sold on the houses, of showing them the houses, handling the paperwork and all this other stuff. And as you grow your business and as you become, and this is why you see these real estate super teams that are out there, because they have all these different people. They're all sharing in the money that's being made. They're sharing in the money that's being made, and they're making a lot more money than if you would have just tried to do this all on your own. And as you do that, what's happening is you're moving into the business quadrant. You're building something. You're building something there. And you could do this yourself with just yourself. But if you're building something like that on your own, you're going to hit that threshold of where you can't do anything more on your own. And as you start bringing more people in to handle different parts of the sale process, that's where you start moving into the business capacity. And that's where you really start to get higher returns on the money it is that you're investing. And what makes it possible, because now you're taking that money, that $10,000 it is that you put in, rather than going on a vacation, rather than doing something like that, maybe you're not bringing in somebody else. Maybe you're okay with knocking on doors and making phone calls and handling the rest of the business. Okay, that's fine. Pay somebody to handle your paperwork. Get some sort of, maybe you're hiring an unlicensed employee. You could do that. You could hire an unlicensed assistant. Have them be in charge of filing your paperwork, making sure all the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, going through all that stuff, reviewing it. And use that $10,000 it is that you have to pay them. Use that $10,000 it is that you got that came in to buy advertising. So you could get your name out there, you get yourself known, and you establish more business. Because most people, and this is why there's a lot of real estate agents out there that don't make a lot of money. That maybe close one deal a year or two deals a year, and maybe that's all they want. Maybe they just work part-time and that's all they want. Maybe they're happy with their job. Maybe they love the job it is that they do. We see this a lot with police officers, firefighters, people that really, they're doing their job not for the money it is that they make, but for the mission it is that they're serving, for the people it is that they're protecting and serving. Maybe you're a doctor and you love being a doctor, and you're a doctor that has some free time on their hands somehow, some way. But you want to now do something that'll make you more money. And it depends. And that's what's great about real estate is it's so flexible. You could be that police officer that has the real estate license, that loves being a police officer, but they also want to be able to be financially sturdy, to have a strong financial foundation, and they want to have money coming in on top of the money it is that they're making from a police officer. The first thing is to understand that these employee quadrant jobs aren't going to have the highest payoff, because there's the security. You're trading in the opportunity and the reward for security. In the self-employed quadrant, you're taking on more risk for more opportunity. So yeah, there is a chance that you might get your real estate license and never close a deal. But I'll ask you this, did you try to close a deal? How hard did you try to close a deal? Who was it that was helping you close this deal? What happened with these particular deals? Because these are all problems that can be fixed and sorted out. And going back to David's question, he asked a great question about, all these people getting in the real estate industry. That momentum, that riles up these average people. The average people start to see people making money. The average realtors, the average people with real estate licenses making 1 or 2 closings a year. They see the people getting 10 closings a month and they're like, well, I could probably do that here. Maybe, I take a little bit of break from being a police officer or whatever it is that your current job is, and you're out there now trying to close more deals, to be that better agent, to have a stronger business. So that's really a lot of what this momentum does. A lot of this momentum that you see, it has ripple effects, and it starts, even if there's more agents getting into the industry, there's going to be a lot more agents now that ultimately make it. That start making more money, and the ones that are kind of complacent with closing 1 or 2 deals a year, if they don't want to be just closing 1 or 2 deals a year, they're going to try to close more. But there's a lot of factors that go around with this. But the key thing it is that you've got to take away from today is money is a tool to gain more money. If you're taking that $10,000 check and going and spending it on vacation, spending it on a new car, spending it on a new house, spending it on your kid's tuition for school, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm sure you love your kid, that you want to spend it on tuition for school for them, whether it's a private school or college or anything like that. But let's be honest here. That's not returning you an investment, not financially at least. Maybe that's a feel-good moment that you have from setting them up for success, and that's okay if that's how you want to spend your money. But before you're doing something like that, and this is why you want to try to catch this early, so when your kids are going to school, you don't have to think about it. You could sign a $40,000 check to send your kid to Harvard for a year. But if you're not reinvesting for the future, you'll get to that point and say, oh, sorry, Can't get a scholarship there? I don't know to tell you. You're going to have to just slum it at the community college. Can't afford Harvard for you, but, community college here, the in-state tuition, we can afford that. I know you won't. You don't want to have to do that. When you go out to dinner with friends or family members, you don't want to sit there hoping somebody else grabs the check. You want to say, oh, don't worry, guys, I got this. And people will love you for it. That there's this wrong saying that money doesn't buy happiness. And having money, that should be the expression. Having money does not get you happiness. But let's say, go back to that scenario. You spent $100 on those open house signs. Nothing is more rewarding than seeing a return on your investment and seeing greater returns on investments and seeing you building something and actually constructing something. That's the business sense of this. Being able to send your kid to Harvard for the year and pay the $40,000 tuition and not have to think about that, that'll put a smile on your face. Being able to take a nice vacation, that'll put a smile on your face. Being able to not be stressed and worried about your finances. Maybe somebody loses a job. Maybe something happens where you need more money, where you need to come up with more money. Not having to stress about that and worry about that will put a smile on your face, or at least help make it not so bad, where you're not losing hair because you're so worried about what's going to happen with the money. Any one of these quadrants are good, but they have their purposes. They have their time and place. Remember, the employee quadrant, that's for security. It's good to have security, but it just provides the minimum, the bare essentials. That you could have a shelter, a place to live, be able to feed yourself, maybe not the best foods, but you could feed yourself. That's the employee. And I'm not saying to walk away from that. Keep that security, maybe grow that a little bit. But now, and this is maybe starting real estate part-time, and I know we're running out of time on today's show, but maybe you're starting real estate part-time. We've done episodes on this before. You start to dip your toes in that self-employed market you're now investing some of this money. When you have the stability, when you've already got a job that's paying your bills and you get a $10,000 check, you're a lot more likely to invest that money back into your business because you don't have to worry about using that for your expenses, for your day-to-day expenses. Not to say starting full-time and jumping right in isn't good, because that could be good as well, but you've got to be willing to treat this like a full-time job and not just do it as a way to be lazy about things. So if you put in the efforts, you will see returns. It's not a matter of if you'll see returns, it's a matter of when you see returns. If you remain persistent, if you take in the right information and have the right trainings and you prime yourself, and there's a lot of factors that go into this, but if you continue pushing yourself along, you start to overcome these obstacles. You start to learn what it is that you need to do. In any situation, perseverance will always win in the end. But you need to get yourself into these other quadrants. Don't subject yourself just to the employee quadrant. At the very least, have a 401k or one of those investment plans. Have something like that so you've got an opportunity now to grow money. It's not going to get you a lot, because with investment, remember, that's where you need money to make money. And the more money it is that you have, the larger returns it is that you're going to be able to get. You'll be able to get into better investments with more money. More risky investments, but that have higher yields and higher returns with more money. So it's good to invest, but you've got to know that you've got to be using these other quadrants to build more money. This one has the lowest opportunity in the end, whereas the S and the B, that allows you to, especially in the S quadrant, to take a minimal amount of investment and utilize your sweat equity, your work that you put into this to build something truly great. But again, moral of the story today is use that money as a tool. It's a tool. And what type of tool is it that you want to have when you become an investor? Do you want to have a screwdriver, or do you want to have a power drill? I would tell you I'd want a bulldozer. Not a screwdriver, not a power drill. People, when they're thinking about money as a tool and investments, they're thinking screwdriver or power drill. Now, let's think jackhammer. Let's think bulldozer. Let's think wrecking ball. Let's think a massive crane. Those are the tools. That's the type of tool it is that you want to have of money when you're investing. These powerful tools that have powerful results. But those bulldozers don't come cheap. You've got to build up that bulldozer of money. And you do that by breaking into these other quadrants, moving into the self-employed quadrant where you can have a little bit of an investment, but you're now utilizing yourself and your efforts and your skills and your intelligence. And look, you don't have to be smart to be a great real estate agent. You just got to know a few things. You know, you don't have to be a rocket scientist, as they say. You just got to know a few things. And you've got to do those things well. And you've got to try to do those things. And you have to be frequent with doing those things. And when you do that, the sky becomes the limit. And you watch, as again, with perseverance and with persistence, being frequent, speeding this up, taking time out of the equation, becoming more frequent with the way it is that you're generating money and the activities it is that you do. If you call one person a week, it's going to take you a while to get some deals closed. But if you call one person every 5 minutes, you're lining up a lot more people and creating a lot more opportunities to close deals. So use money as the tool. That's what it's meant for. You could also use it to buy things that are not necessities, but that becomes after you use it as a tool. Use it as a tool first and foremost to collect more money, to get more money coming in, and then use that money it is that you have coming in to pay this out. Another good book to check out with this that kind of talks about this whole concept. I think it's Richest Man in Babylon or something like that is the title for it. Really old book and really kind of old school with it. I mean, you're not going to see any references to cell phones or anything like that unless it's like an updated edition of it. But it talks about using money to generate more money, making that cash an employee and using that to generate more money and more money and more money. And then eventually you get to that point where you can start to afford these things, where you don't have to think about buying a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or these fancy cars that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. You could buy one of those and say, oh yeah, no big deal, just a couple $100,000. Until you get to that point, until you get to the point where you don't have to think about the money it is that you're spending, that's where you need to be. You need to get yourself to the point where you don't have to think about spending the money, and now you're allowed to spend the money. So remember, money is a tool. So all I've got for you guys today on State of Real Estate. Thank you guys for tuning in. Do yourself a favor and implement some of this stuff. Don't just take the knowledge it is that you've gained today and just sit on it, because that's not going to achieve you anything. You need to put the action in. You need to put the action behind it. Use the money as a tool. If you've got some money that you've been sitting on, that money is just losing value due to inflation. Inflation goes on. The dollar loses value when inflation goes on, and inflation occurs almost every single day, where that money that's sitting on your mattress, sitting in your safe, even sitting in a savings bank account where you're getting a % of yield, inflation is typically outpacing the yield of that money that's sitting in there. Money is not meant to stay in one place. It's meant to be circulated. It's meant to be moved. So take that money and put it to work. Put it to work to make you more money, to get more money in, and then put that money to work and keep this cycle going until it gets bigger and bigger, and you've got this storm, this monster of income generation where you don't have to think about these little expenses that are frivolities, the little things that you don't necessarily need. That's all I got for you guys today. If you're thinking about starting your real estate career, maybe you've got to do post-licensing. You still got a couple days to do that. They've extended the deadline to April 2nd on that. Give us a call if you haven't signed up for a course yet. Your only option at this point is online, but it's not impossible. It is very possible to get that done before the deadline. So give us a call if you need to do post-licensing, especially if your deadline isn't March 31st. Still, really give us a call if your deadline is March 31st, but if your deadline's this September, don't end up like the people March 31st that are hustling right now to try to get their post-licensing done before their license goes null and void. So give us a call if you've got to do post-licensing. If you're looking to start your real estate career, we've got a step-by-step guide to not only get your real estate license, but pass your exams on the first try. We've got a whole recommended strategy for that. We're here to help you guys every step of the way. That's why we do State of Real Estate. That's why we spend over an hour on a Friday talking about money. This isn't stuff you need to know for your real estate exams, but it is stuff that you need to know to be able to make money, to be able to use money effectively, to be able to generate income and make your life better, which is the whole purpose of all this real estate licensing process. So give us a call. We'd love to help you out with that. The phone number's below. It's 813-928-0106. Check us out online at tampaschool.com. But other than that, I will see you guys on Wednesday.
Have you seen what's going on in Tampa?
If you're looking to get in on the real estate action that's going on in Tampa right now, we're who you need to talk to. We can help you get your real estate license, start your real estate career. We're here to assist you for the life of your real estate career. Give us a call. Phone number is 813-928-0106, or check us out online at tampaschool.com.
Do you want to incorporate studying for your real estate exams into your busy schedule? Now you can review the key topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams with our MP3 audio review. Simply pop in your headphones or connect to your car to reinforce crucial information while you exercise or drive. Listen to the first unit for free at mp3audioreview.com. That's mp3audioreview.com.
Hey, if you're enjoying the show today, which I'm sure you are, be sure to hit like, subscribe, post your comments, share with your friends and family. Thank you guys so much for watching.
You are watching
State of Real Estate. Every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time. Grow your real estate business. You're watching State of Real Estate.